Hello and welcome back to some World of Tanks. Today we've got a really exciting video. World of Tanks have just released the super test statistics for the upcoming tier 10 of the Czechoslovakian light tank branch we're going to be getting around early summer, so in a couple of months. So let's have a look at this tank. It's looking very interesting. It's going to be bringing an entirely new mechanic that we've never even seen in the game. Well, technically, you'll see, but let's get into these statistics straight away, first of all. We'll look at the statistics and then I'll explain the gimmick because then it will make sense. So, you're looking at that shell damage and you're going, 12, 9, 25? Yeah, this thing has different alpha damages for all of its shells, and it has extremely low alpha damages. So, its standard alpha damage is 12, its gold alpha damage is 9, and its HE alpha damage is 25. Penetration. It's got 190 on its standard AP, it's got 250 on its gold APCR, and it's got 50 on its HE. Still interesting. 15 seconds reload time as well. Reloading clip. Now it started to make sense. This thing, if any of you remember back to summer of 2023, Wargaming tested the overwhelming fire mode with those tanks, loads of different tanks that were already in the game with kind of drums, extremely large amount of shells within a clip that fired extremely fast, had low alpha, and had large clip potential. That is this tank, but we're going to be getting it as part of a tech tree now in the game, so it's going to be coming to the game to be seen all the time. Obviously, this is still in testing, and I think this is going to be extremely hard to balance, but essentially how it's going to work is you're going to have 75 shells in a drum. That's okay. That's a lot of shells. So, you've got 75 shells in a drum. If you're firing standard ammo, which remember has more alpha damage, your DPM, so your damage per minute, is going to be 3,600. That's quite high. Its gold DPM, obviously it has low alpha, it has 9 instead of 12, so its gold DPM is going to be 2,700, which is still pretty good for a light tank. That's still very good for a light tank. And its high explosive DPM is just absolutely mind-bogglingly bonkers, and the only way you're going to ever be able to use that thing is if you're firing against a team full of FV405s or gorillas, because it has 7,500 HE DPM. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I feel like that's slightly overtuned, we'll see. But you're probably all panicking now going, what? There's going to be a light tank with 3,600 standard DPM and 2,700 gold and 7,500 HE? Yeah, there is, but it's also going to have a cooldown mechanic on the gun from what we believe. So if it fires all 75 of those shells, there's going to be like a cooldown mechanic, and it might not be able to fire all 75 of those shells within one clip. So those DPM values are probably not accurate. They're just like what we understand right now. But yeah, that cooldown mechanic will definitely be interesting to see how they implement it. It might be after you fire 35 shells. It might be after you fire half the clip, 40, 45 shells. You get this cooldown mechanic where, I don't know, maybe your dispersion gets worse. Maybe the gun just doesn't fire anymore. But that's going to be interesting to see how they implement it. We're going to have to wait to see some gameplay of this tank. That's something we haven't got yet. We also don't have this thing on tanks.gg, so we can't look at any armor models, any of the hidden statistics yet. We've only got what they've given us, but I wanted to get this video as quick as possible so you can all be as up to date as possible because no one else has got a video on this yet, so why not? But let's go back to some of the statistics instead of the theorizing. So, it's going to have a 2-second aim time, which is interesting. That's quite low, but if it's firing 75 shells, is it going to have to re-aim for every single one of those shells every half a second because that's this thing's intra-clip reload time? Oh, sorry, not even half a second. It's 0.05 of a second. So that is like, that is literally like a Gatling gun. That's like an A10 Warthog. That's terrifying. But is that aim time going to be constant for the entire time that you're aiming, irrelevant of the fact that it's firing different shells? Because normally how it works is for every single shell you fire, your aim time blooms back out like that. Okay, because it readjusts your aim, so your dispersion will also bloom out like that. Is that going to be the same for every single shot you fire? Because otherwise this thing is just going to be terribly inaccurate. Yeah, it's got a lot of damage potential, but it isn't going to be able to use any of it because it's going to be ridiculously inaccurate. Or is it going to just stay dialed in for the entire time that you're shooting unless you move your mouse, for example, so you move your turret? We don't know yet. We're going to have to see. But a 2-second aim time and a 0.4 dispersion. The aim time's okay, but once again, we don't know how it's going to be implemented. And the dispersion is quite bad. 0.4 is quite bad. This thing is going to be terrible at long range. Because you've got to remember, you've also got penetration drop-off at long range for the AP and the APCR. So this thing is not going to be wanting to fire at anything apart from point blank. It's going to be kind of like you YOLO the enemy light tank and you clip him out in whatever 4 seconds I think it is to upload the entire clip. Off my top of my head, my maths is correct. To put the 75 shells in, yeah, it's 4 seconds. So I guess that's how this tank's going to work. It's going to be terrifying to fight against in its current state if you're in a lightly armored light tank, because it just fires HE and literally will 100% of the time clip your entire tank out. If it's firing AP, it's going to do 900 to you. If it's firing gold, it's going to do 675 to you. This is all off the top of my head. Some of those might not be exactly accurate. Gun depression, it's got 12 degrees. That's quite nice, actually. It seems like quite a stubby tank, so it's not very long, but quite tall. So it's got decent gun depression angles over the front and over the side, so that's quite nice. It carries a lot of shells. It carries 1,200 shells, so that's probably going to be very expensive to play. We obviously don't know the shell costs yet, but if it's firing 75 shells and each shell costs, I don't know, 900, like some of the low tier shells cost, that's still, you know, you're talking just less than 70,000 for a clip. And this thing's probably going to clip, I don't know, 6 times a game. Yeah, this thing could be ridiculously expensive to play, especially as it's not a premium tank. It's going to be at tier 10. So that's going to be interesting to see how they balance. Speed-wise, this thing's not overly quick for a light tank. 65 forward, 25 back. 25 back is quite nice. 65 forward is not the quickest. It's not the slowest. It's going to kind of be in the middle kind of area. Yeah, power to weight ratio looks really nice. Its traverse speeds look really nice as well, so it's going to be quite snappy. I think it's got really good turret traverse speed because obviously it's got that fast firing gun, so you need to be able to like drag your turret around, if that makes sense. Hit points wise, it's got 100 less hit points than most tier 10 lights, so deal with that as what you wish. I'm comparing this thing mainly to the T100 LT because that's kind of what it looks like. Obviously, it's nothing like it in practice, but it looks like it. Armor-wise, this thing has absolutely no armor. This thing is going to be a HE magnet, and as it should be, it seems, you know, it's probably going to be this thing's counter. It has decent camo rating if you're running a, I don't know, a low noise CVS. Optics, you'll probably be able to get that quite high, that concealment. The view range as well, 390 is nice base, means you can run optics and just about max the view range out if you have a good crew. Yeah, that's this tank. That's the ZZ71. It's looking terrifying currently. Once again, we don't know everything about this tank. We only have its statistics. We don't know how the gun is going to exactly work. We don't know how the drum is going to unload. We don't know about the cooldown mechanic. Yeah, we don't know any of that stuff. We don't know how the dispersion is going to work. The aim time is going to work with firing a shell every 0.05 of a second. Yeah, there's still a lot we don't know about this tank, but based upon what Wargaming have given us here with the Super Test graphic release, which they like to do, it looks terrifying. But it looks like it's not going to be... It looks terrifying if you're playing a light tank. I feel like if you're going to be playing a medium tank, a heavily armored medium tank, or a heavy tank, this thing will kind of not be an issue for you. It has low HP, it's a HE magnet, it's not very quick, it's probably going to have to be right next to you to be able to clip out and do actually any form of meaningful damage. Yeah, it's probably going to be very annoying if it just runs around the battlefield, YOLOs in, does a single clip and goes, ha ha ha, I've done my clip, and, you know, runs away or dies. But I feel like this tank is going to be very hard to balance, and I feel like this tank was planned for spring of 2024. Spring started yesterday, or officially started yesterday, not meteorologically. So we're probably going to be seeing this tank towards the end of June, I'd say. Yeah, that's technically summer. I just don't see this tank coming that quickly. I feel like it's going to be really hard to balance in practice because it's a completely new gimmick that has the potential to be very, 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 very overpowered. But it also has the potential to be completely terrible if it is, not correctly balanced. It needs to kind of be in that sweet spot of being able to brawl at close range, not be able to clip people out for ridiculous amounts of damage at long range, but it needs to be able to not be too punishing at being able to just YOLO into a fight at close range and just win, if that makes sense. So it's going to be quite hard to balance, I feel, and we're going to have to probably going to be multiple iterations of this tank. This tank statistics are probably going to change a number of times before we actually even see it come onto a common test, but if there are any major changes, I'll make sure to get a video out just covering it, or I'll tag it into one of my other videos so I keep you up to date. And when this thing does come out, or we finally get this thing's final form on the common test, or just after the common test, I'll get a video out reviewing it and kind of giving you my thoughts on what's going to be best to take on this tank and all that good stuff. If you did enjoy this style of video, I have some more videos on some other super test tanks that have been tested recently or are currently being tested. I'll pop one of them up here and you'll get recommended another one just there. And if you did like, don't forget to let me know down in the comments what you liked about this video and what you think about this tank, because there's going to be some opinionated people, I feel. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!